If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The Unseen Disruption. WGN-TV signal hijacked during evening news, November 22nd, 1987, felt like any other Sunday evening in Chicago. Families gathered around their television sets, settling in for the familiar comfort of the 9 o'clock news on WGN-TV. The anchor's voice carried its usual steady tone as sports highlights filled the screen. Then, something impossible happened. The picture began to flicker. Static danced across the screen like angry lightning. Viewers reached for their remotes, thinking their televisions had malfunctioned. But this was no ordinary technical problem. A figure suddenly appeared where the sports anchor had been moments before. The image was dark and strange. Someone wearing a crude mask that looked like the computer-generated character Max Headroom stared back at confused viewers. The mask was wrong somehow, distorted and frightening in ways the real character never was. The hijacker said nothing. They simply swayed back and forth against a spinning background that made watchers feel dizzy. The audio was gone. Only an eerie silence filled living rooms across Chicago. 15 seconds passed like an eternity. Then, as quickly as it began, normal programming returned. The sports anchor reappeared, completely unaware that anything had changed. He continued his report as if nothing had happened. Inside WGN's broadcast center, technicians stared at their monitors in shock. They had watched the impossible unfold in real time. Someone had taken control of their signal. Someone had pushed their broadcast aside and replaced it with this bizarre performance. Phone calls started pouring in immediately. Confused viewers wanted answers. What had they just witnessed? Was it a prank? A test of the emergency broadcast system gone wrong? The station had no explanations to offer. The technical crew scrambled to understand how this could have occurred. Television signals don't simply get replaced without massive equipment and deep knowledge of broadcast systems. Yet someone had done exactly that, appearing on thousands of screens without permission or warning. Security cameras showed nothing unusual. No one had broken into the facility. No alarms had sounded. The building remained secure. Yet their most protected asset, their broadcast signal, had been stolen for 15 terrifying seconds. News directors gathered in emergency meetings. How do you explain the unexplainable to your audience? How do you assure viewers that their trusted news source remains safe when you don't understand what happened yourself? The first hijacking raised questions that seemed to have no answers. Who possessed the technology to override a major television station? What message were they trying to send? And most chilling of all, would they strike again? Chicago's television landscape had changed forever in those 15 seconds. Trust had been broken. The impossible had become reality. Return of the Pirate extended Intrusion during WTTW's Doctor Who. The Masked Stranger wasn't finished. 2 hours after the first attack, families across Chicago settled in to watch Doctor Who. The time-traveling hero was about to face his enemies when something far more disturbing took over their screens. This time, the pirate stayed longer. 90 seconds of pure madness began to unfold in living rooms across the city. The same rubber Max Headroom mask filled the screen. But now the figure behind it seemed bolder, more unhinged. "Your love is fading," came the garbled voice through static and distortion. The words made no sense. They tumbled out in broken pieces, like someone speaking through a broken radio from another world. The audio cut in and out, creating an effect that made viewers lean closer to their sets, straining to understand. The figure swayed back and forth behind the mask. Sometimes the voice became high-pitched and strange. Other times, it dropped to an unsettling whisper. References poured out that seemed random and disconnected. Something about a glove, a mention of nerds, words that meant nothing to most people watching, yet felt deeply personal and threatening. Technical problems made everything worse. The video signal flickered and jumped. The mask appeared to melt and reform on screen. Sound became a choppy mess of electronic noise mixed with human speech. It was as if reality itself was breaking down. Children watching Doctor Who began to cry. Parents rushed to change channels, but the damage was done. The pirate had invaded their homes for a full minute and a half, leaving behind questions that had no answers. Phone lines at WTTW lit up instantly. Viewers demanded explanations that the station couldn't provide. Local news crews scrambled to cover what was becoming more than just a simple prank. This was something different. Something that felt dangerous. The media response grew intense overnight. What started as a curious technical incident now felt like a deliberate attack on the airwaves. Newspapers ran headlines about television terrorism. Radio hosts debated who could pull off such a sophisticated operation. Fear began to spread through the broadcasting community. If someone could hijack Chicago's strongest signals twice in one night, what would stop them from doing it again? The Federal Communications Commission announced an investigation, but their serious tone only made the mystery feel more threatening. The second intrusion changed everything. This wasn't random interference or equipment failure. Someone had planned this carefully. They had the knowledge, the equipment, and the boldness to take over television signals at will. The Max Headroom pirate had shown Chicago that their airwaves belonged to anyone clever enough to steal them. Signals and shadows, technical details behind the hijack. The ghost in the machine needed more than luck. It demanded skill that few possessed in 1987. Television signals travel through the air like invisible rivers. They flow from tall towers to your living room, carrying pictures and sound across miles of empty space. But these rivers can be dammed. They can be redirected. Someone knew exactly how to do this. The hijacker needed powerful equipment, not the kind you buy at an electronics store. We're talking about microwave transmitters worth tens of thousands of dollars. These machines could punch through the air with enough force to drown out the real television signal. Picture this scene. Somewhere in Chicago, on a cold November night, a person sets up their equipment, maybe on a rooftop, maybe in a van parked strategically near the television towers. They point their transmitter at the exact spot where WGN-TV sends its signal to viewers. The timing had to be perfect. Television signals work on precise frequencies. Get it wrong by even a little bit and nothing happens. Get it right, and you can overpower a major television station for 30 seconds. But here's where it gets strange. The hijacker hit two different stations. WGN first, then WTTW later that same night. This wasn't random. Someone had studied both stations. They knew the weak points in each signal path. Engineers who investigated the incident found something troubling. The hijacker understood television technology better than most professionals. They knew about signal strafe. They knew about transmission patterns. They knew which spots in the city would give them the best chance of success. The equipment needed was rare. In 1987, only television stations, universities, and certain government agencies owned such powerful transmitters. This narrowed the suspect list, but not by much. Chicago had dozens of places where someone could access this technology. What puzzled investigators most was the signal's strength. It didn't just interrupt the broadcasts, it completely overwhelmed them. This suggested the hijacker was close to the transmission towers. Very close. Close enough that someone should have seen them. Yet nobody did. No witnesses, no suspicious activity reported. No strange equipment spotted on rooftops or in parking lots. The technical skill required was enormous. The hijacker had to sync their signal perfectly with the television station's broadcasts. One mistake would have caused static or distortion. Instead, the Max Headroom character appeared crystal clear on screens across Chicago. Someone out there possessed rare knowledge and expensive equipment. They used both to pull off television's greatest unsolved crime. Then, they vanished without a trace, leaving only questions echoing through the airwaves. Investigators on the trail. FCC and FBI opened their inquiry. Within hours of the Max Headroom incident, phones rang at federal offices across Chicago. The FBI and FCC moved fast. This was not just a prank anymore. Someone had broken into television signals twice in one night. That made it a federal crime. Agent Margaret Chen arrived at the FBI field office before dawn. She had worked broadcast crimes before, but nothing like this. The case files already held dozens of witness calls. People described the same strange scene. A man in a Max Headroom mask, garbled audio, complete signal takeover. The FCC brought their best signal experts. They studied the recorded footage frame by frame. The quality was poor, but they could see details. The hijacker wore a rubber mask. He moved strangely. Behind him hung a piece of metal sheeting that created a ripple effect. Technical analysis revealed troubling facts. The hijacker had used powerful equipment. They needed a transmitter strong enough to overpower WGN and WTTW stations. This was not simple technology. It required knowledge and expensive gear. Investigators faced immediate problems. The hijacking lasted only minutes. The signal source could have been anywhere within a 50-mile radius. Chicago's urban landscape made tracking nearly impossible. Tall buildings blocked signals. Industrial areas offered countless hiding spots. The FBI questioned broadcast engineers across the city. They learned that signal hijacking required precise timing. The hijacker had to know exactly when to transmit. They needed to match the station's frequencies perfectly. This suggested inside knowledge or serious technical skill. Evidence collection proved challenging. The hijacker left no fingerprints on radio waves. No physical traces remained at the broadcast stations. The only evidence was the recorded footage itself. Forensic experts enhanced the audio, hoping to identify background sounds or voice patterns. Public pressure mounted quickly. Local news covered the story extensively. The mysterious nature captivated viewers. Who was behind the mask? How did they do it? Why Max Headroom? Federal agents worked around the clock. They mapped transmission sites. They interviewed electronics dealers about recent equipment sales. They checked records at amateur radio clubs. Every lead seemed to vanish into thin air. The investigation revealed the sophistication required. The hijacker had overcome multiple security measures. They had timed everything perfectly. They had disappeared without leaving digital fingerprints. Days turned into weeks. The trail grew cold. No new evidence emerged. The Max Headroom hijacker had pulled off something unprecedented. They had taken control of television signals and vanished completely. The case remained active, but answers seemed further away than ever. Someone out there knew the truth, but they were not talking. Theories and suspicions. Who was behind the mask? The FBI files grew thick with theories, but none led to answers. Each clue seemed to point in a different direction, like shadows dancing on a wall. Television engineers whispered about inside jobs. Someone knew too much about broadcast systems to be an outsider. The hijacker had accessed equipment worth millions and operated it flawlessly. This wasn't random mischief. This was precision. Former WGN employees became suspects overnight. Had someone been fired recently? Did an angry worker want revenge against the station? The timing felt personal, almost calculated. But weeks of investigation turned up nothing solid. The technical knowledge bothered experts most. Broadcasting signals required specialized training and expensive equipment. You couldn't just walk into a store and buy what was needed. Someone had spent years learning these skills, possibly decades. Media professors studied the footage frame by frame. Why Max Headroom? The character represented artificial intelligence and corporate media power. Was this a statement about television controlling minds? Or was it simpler, just a mask that hid identity well? Underground hackers suggested different motives. Perhaps this was art, not crime. Street artists tagged buildings with spray paint. Maybe these hijackers tagged airwaves with stolen signals. The performance felt theatrical, almost rehearsed. Amateur detectives formed groups, sharing theories online. Some believed multiple people were involved. The operation seemed too complex for one person. Others argued a single genius could have planned everything alone, working from a basement filled with electronic parts. The choice of victims puzzled investigators. Why interrupt a Bears game and Doctor Who? Football fans and science fiction lovers made strange targets, unless the hijacker simply wanted maximum attention during popular shows. Chicago police followed hundreds of leads. Every electronics store owner was questioned. Radio hobbyists were interviewed. College broadcasting programs were searched. Nothing connected the dots. Years passed, and theories multiplied like weeds. Some suspected foreign agents testing American defenses. Others blamed disgruntled artists protesting media consolidation. A few whispered about time travelers or visitors from other worlds. The mask itself became evidence. Where had they bought it? How had they modified it to work on television? Store owners checked old receipts, but Max Headroom merchandise was everywhere in 1987. Technical forums debated equipment lists late into the night. What transmitter was powerful enough? Which antenna could reach both stations? The answers existed somewhere, hidden in circuit boards and table connections. But 30 years later, the questions remain. The hijacker vanished like smoke, leaving only 90 seconds of strange footage and a city full of wondering faces. Somewhere, perhaps, they still watch the news coverage of their perfect crime, smiling behind another mask. Echoes in the static, legacy and lingering mysteries. The signal faded to black that November night, but the mystery had only just begun. As years passed, the Max Headroom hijacking became something far greater than a mere prank. It grew into television's most haunting riddle. Decades later, amateur detectives still gather in online forums. They share theories and examine old footage frame by frame. Each clue seems to lead nowhere. The mask, the voice, the strange movements all remain as puzzling today as they were in 1987. Someone out there knows the truth, but they have kept their secret perfectly. The broadcasting industry learned hard lessons from that strange night. Security measures changed forever. Stations installed new equipment to prevent signal intrusion. Engineers created backup systems and monitoring protocols. The mysterious hijacker had exposed a weakness that no one wanted to face again. Yet the incident became more than a security concern. It transformed into a cultural symbol. The distorted Max Headroom face appeared in art galleries and music videos. Filmmakers referenced the hijacking in movies and documentaries. College students wore the iconic mask at Halloween parties. Something about the event captures people's imagination. Perhaps it represents our fear of technology spinning out of control. Or maybe it reminds us that even in our connected world, true mysteries still exist. The hijacker became a folk hero to some, a faceless figure who outsmarted the system and vanished without a trace. Television executives still talk about that night when discussing security. They speak in hushed tones about how easily someone broke through their defenses. The incident serves as a reminder that no system is truly safe from someone with enough skill and determination. The mystery has inspired countless investigations. Journalists have followed every lead. Computer experts have analyzed the technical aspects. Psychology professors have studied the hijacker's behavior. None have found definitive answers. The perpetrator remains a ghost in the machine. Each year brings new theories. Some suggest it was an inside job by disgruntled station employees. Others believe it was the work of college students with access to broadcasting equipment. A few even claim government involvement, though evidence remains thin. The Max Headroom hijacking stands as proof that some secrets refuse to reveal themselves. In our age of surveillance and digital footprints, this anonymous figure managed something remarkable: complete invisibility. They pulled off the perfect crime and disappeared into legend. The static has long since cleared from those Chicago airwaves, but the questions remain as sharp as ever. Somewhere in the shadows of history, the truth waits patiently for discovery.